welcome to another episode of Superb Woman Sundays at 7. I'm your host, Janet Neal, the founder and queen bee at the Superb Woman Incorporated. I'm so glad that you joined us. I have another amazing superb woman tonight as my guest, and we'll get to her story in just a minute. But before we do, I just want to let you know a little bit about what I mean when I say superb woman, because I lived that, or tried to live, that superwoman role. And may I just say, it is unsustainable. It serves no one. It only results in burnout and frustration. And so I learned that in order to really have a fabulous life and be able to give back, I had to learn who I was. I had to learn to be myself. It's all about the be. And therefore, the superb woman was born. I'm so grateful that you've joined us. I want you to meet other superb women, examples of what I'm talking about, women who have taken the time to understand who they are, and as a result are doing amazing things. It's about being first and then doing. And so let me get off of the podium here and let you see another superb woman, and keep coming back, because every week we've got somebody else. I have with me another, of course, superb woman, Beverly Neufeld. Welcome, Bev.
Thank you so much for having me, Janet.
I'm so glad to have you here, and I'm so excited to hear your story because you are doing amazing things. Let me tell you, the people who are watching, a little bit about you. So Bev has this organization called PowHER New York. It started from her, and she'll tell you better about this, but it started from her getting a little frustrated by the lack of advancement in women's economic issues in New York. And so she came up with this idea, and I'll let her tell you more about it, but it's an organization to help advance those kinds of issues. She also is the president of BCN Consulting Group, which works with nonprofits to help them change through advocacy, programming, and organizational development. And before that, she was a teacher. And we're going to get into that story in a little bit as well. But Bev and I were just talking. We were trying to figure out where we first met, and we've come to the conclusion that it was at a networking event that we were both invited to. And it was, again, I say this over and over again, only to tell you that, take advantage of opportunities. And this was one of those events that I was invited to that I wasn't sure if I wanted to go. And I have met at least two amazing, superb women as a result of that one event. So, Bev, thank you again for being here, and let's hear your story. How did you go from being a teacher and then stay-at-home mom to being this advocate for women's economic issues?
Well, I kind of followed a very typical route, although I think I had a lot of good ideas, and I really wanted to do something different. The time I was growing up, being a teacher was a practical thing, to do, because you could have a family and that could work out well with your schedule, etc. So I did follow that, despite, I think, not wanting to. but that was the road, and I had a wonderful career as a teacher with middle-age, young people teaching English. But when I had a family, I decided I really wanted to kind of explore and have the opportunity to do some new things. And that's what I did. I became an artist. I started delving into issues that I cared about, but I didn't really know very much about them. Mm-hmm. So I found places where I could learn and be involved. League of Women Voters was a phenomenal home, for a new person in the issue-oriented area to learn about the issues and how to advocate for them. And so that was my foray into something that was completely new for me. And I just let it keep growing, and I just kept connecting the dots until, over time I got here. So, but it's a lot of years in between, but what I learned as part of being involved in these issues is that the political process is really important to understand and to be part of, even though a lot of us don't feel comfortable with that, you know, political process or included. At that time, there were even fewer women who were in office. So I had the opportunity to work with a really amazing leader, and that's Congresswoman Neal of The, which I did for 5 years. And I learned so much, you know, working next to Nita and her drive, her adaptability, her intelligence, the way she could get things done. But I also learned that politics was not for me, that I was going to be involved, but I was not going to run for office. So I took a job with the White House Project, which was working toward a woman in the White House, which we are actually getting closer to that reality, you know, in this election cycle. And there I was able to be involved with political issues, but also with the issues that I really cared about, women's economic empowerment and women's leadership. So that was a wonderful way to marry this interest in issues and politics, but find my way through that process, you know, at that time.
Excellent. So PowHER, tell us more about that. It's a wonderful organization. Tell us what you do, and then I want you to spend a little bit of time talking about your great success that you've just had.
Oh, thank you. When I left the White House Project, I started to do my consultancy business, but I wanted to work in women's issues. And sometimes when you're a consultant, you know, you take on the jobs that come. So I went out and I looked for a organization that I could, you know, work on my economic empowerment issues. And that was the New York Women's Agenda, which is a coalition of organizations. And I really found out I love working with coalitions. A lot of people, bringing a lot of people together who have different opinions, who have different interests, you know, even different priorities, but everybody brought their unique perspective to the table. And over time, I founded a project around equal pay. We started the Equal Pay campaign in New York. And I really did not know a lot about equal pay. What are the causes for women not being paid equally? But I learned on the go, and I found other people really cared about this issue, but no one was bringing us all together to work on it. So the childcare people knew that childcare was a piece of this, and all sorts of groups cared about it. So we came together, created the Equal Pay campaign. And out of that, a 7-year or 8-year campaign, I started realizing that equal pay, it's just so complicated. There's so many factors. You have to have childcare. You need paid family leave. Women need non-trad jobs, you know, quote unquote, non-trad jobs. So equal pay wasn't exactly, it was too narrow a focus. And I started seeing a real interest in broadening the conversation and bringing people together to work collectively. And I envisioned this idea of PowHER New York. And it is just a broader way of looking at creating economic equality. And we run the Equal Pay campaign for New York. We've had some successes, which I'm so excited about. But we supported paid family leave and all the other issues, domestic violence, trafficking, etc. So that we can bring all these friends we have across New York State and beyond, and we can all bring our energy, our interest, our intelligence to moving these issues forward together in a very collaborative, supportive way. And people like the idea of it. It's been successful, and so we're growing that, and finally we're celebrating some successes. So
yeah, tell us about that.
Very exciting, very exciting. This year, we started out having Equal Pay Day in New York. It was the first Equal Pay Day 10 years ago. And we wore red because women are still in the red. And I always say women are seeing red. And for all of these years, we've been working on equal pay legislation, getting smarter over the years, having, you know, more, I think, creating more of a dialogue, public awareness amongst the elected officials.
Mm-hmm.
And this year we wore green on Equal Pay Day because we are celebrating the fact that we passed an equal pay bill in New York, a paid family leave bill, a minimum wage bill just this year, as well as other workplace legislation that will really impact women's lives in New York. And that came out of a 10-point women's agenda that Governor Cuomo pulled together, and he pulled even more organizations to work on that. And it only took us 2.5 years to get them passed, but we finally were able to celebrate that, and now they are written into law. So, so we feel that we've made a big step, but I have to say, everyone's just got to know that we have so much more to go to really solve this issue of economic equality and equal opportunity for women to, to really fulfill their goals of working, which ultimately is to take care of their families and themselves. And right now, most women can work full time, but they still aren't able to really make ends meet. So there's something wrong with that equation. Still plenty more work to do on that.
Yeah. Well, I just also want to echo my congratulations to you, because that's huge. It's huge. And I know that there was a lot of time by yourself and others within your organization. So on behalf of women out there, thank you very much for all the work that you're doing and continue to do in that area.
Yeah, thank you, Janet. It was an extraordinary experience, to go through this process. And I think that's important for us to all realize, is that, we're not born fully formed.
Right.
We have to follow, what we're interested in, even if we don't know about it, and learn on the go. I think women are really good at doing that.
Yeah.
Following their instincts. So we really didn't know what we were doing. We didn't understand the political process, but we learned together on the go. And, ultimately people are very generous in spirit, and we, were able to pull in all sorts of partners to collaborate with. And that's been an interesting experience, learning how to, find people who aren't your necessary allies. And whether it's in business or in this particular thing is around the political process, but finding allies who aren't normally at the table and bringing them all in, like business, really engaging business as a partner. Now there's this whole effort around engaging men as allies. Well, kind of course, but we can't just talk to ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Change things. So, so it's been a big learning curve, and we continue to learn how to move forward on these issues, of course.
Well, I think that's wonderful, and I think it just really drives home the point that I talk about with Superb Women, that it's, like you said, it's, following your passion. It's learning, it's taking that step back and plugging in to who you are and what's important to you. And then it's amazing the things that you can do as a result. So I think you're a wonderful example, and your organization is a wonderful example of what can happen when you do that, when you really align yourself with what really matters to you.
Right.
And I know that I attended one of your events, and I'll just say the caliber of the women that you had brought together in that event. And again, it wasn't, the usual suspects. It's not the women that you see at, every networking event that you go to. But these were women, from out of state. A woman who, give us the name of the woman from New Mexico.
Martha Burke.
Yes. Amazing woman. Hopefully I'll get her on the show sometime soon.
Yes, phenomenal.
But she was just, one of the many women there. So I love what you're doing as far as there's resources that are out there, and you're really pulling them together to help us all kind of move in the same direction,
right,
to accomplish a goal. So
people want to, people want change, and they want to take action. So you really have to think about how do we empower people? We get them excited or angry, right? Right now, the whole conversation is around people being dissatisfied and angry. The question is, what can we do?
Right.
So we really have to, if we're going to get people interested, you have a responsibility of giving them something to do. So that's empowering. Doing something, sitting around and talking is not empowering. So I think what's been exciting is particularly working with younger women. PowHER is a virtual organization, which was also a big learning curve for me. But we decided that we wanted to reach lots of people, not just the people that could get into a room. Yeah. So our room is online, and we have those conversations online and bring in great speakers and, have these debates online. Use Twitter and Facebook and not so much LinkedIn. Got to work on that, but we'll get there. We have so much that we want to do, really, to connect the dots between all of these PowHER points, as we say.
Yeah.
But young women in that room that you were talking about, there were many young women and many women of different backgrounds. And that's been very exciting, to work with all these different kinds of women.
Yeah.
We had a really interesting experience. At the same time we were passing these bills in New York, this 10-point plan, soon after that, there was an expose about the nail salon industry. And so now, suddenly, you're seeing that your issue is connected with these women who actually are touching your hands, giving you a manicure, right? Yeah. And it really shows us how we're all connected on these issues. And suddenly we had a broader world of friends that we were working with. And I think a deeper understanding of the cultural issues having to do with discrimination, whether it's because of where you're from or how you live or if you're female or male. Right. But it was just very rich to be able to work with, women who were in a different community, a different life, a different economic, set. We've got a lot to learn from each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Bev, is your organization exclusively for New York, or do you reach outside of the New York State area?
We do reach outside. We are focused in New York, trying to create a model that then could be used in other states. Perhaps if that happens, it's one of our goals. A much more collaborative model. But we do, and we have the most amazing partners across the country. That's been very exciting to see what we're doing in New York, and we've inspired things happening in other states. But also, when there's a question about what are you doing around this issue, we call someone in California or Oregon or all these different places. Of course, Washington, D.C., we have great advocates there, very, very smart people who are doing research. And so like AEW has been leading the way on equal pay, and they have groups around the country. So we're all learning together. If it had been easy, it would have been done.
Right. Yeah.
So
what we've done now. So that's what's important.
Exactly. So we're creating a larger web, across the country. And it's true. What happens in New York, I always say, what happens in New York, stay in New York. We want to export it. We want people to see that we are one of, the most powerful economy. And that if we can do it here, and the things don't crumble, they actually improve, then other states may do that as well. So we've got far to go in New York, but we have some really powerful examples of success.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned one woman that has been influential in your career. Who has helped you? Who else has helped you? Who has been, I always say that we cannot do this by ourselves. So who has been influential in your life in helping you to get to where you are today?
I think there's just been so many people, and someone like Martha Burke is so generous in spirit.
Mm.
You know, anytime, any question, learning, you know, from her, and her mentoring us, you know, was really instrumental. You know, that's true of so many people who you have to just turn to people and ask them, you know, a question, ask them for help. I remember it was before she got really super famous, but we were having an equal pay day event and we needed a speaker. And I'm like, oh, this Lily Ledbetter person, she would be great.
Wow.
And no one, you know, we knew of Lily, we knew of her plight, but she wasn't a household name yet.
Uh-huh.
We just got on the phone and called her, and she came to New York for our Equal Pay Day
Wow.
panel, you know, and so someone like that is, you know, responds to you. I think we need to ask, and people do offer help that you need. So I found so many people to you know, be helpful in terms of my getting this done, you know, or of us. It's not me, it's everyone getting it done together. But you have to put out those asks, those feelers, and people respond to you. And those are all the people who've made this happen. And for me personally, have supported my journey into an area that I didn't know I was going into yet. So.
That's fabulous. So what about the shoulds? That's another thing that I have found that superb women have learned to let go in their lives. Any shoulds you've learned to let go of?
Yeah, I think that I feel that I have a great deal of potential, and as a young woman, youngster, that wasn't tapped and it wasn't built on. It was just because, you know, the way things are, and it's often that way. And so you can't walk around saying, you know, I should be farther along, you know, I could have been this. You just have to say, you know, going to put one day in front of the next and follow that little voice, you know, get the support of people who can assure you that you're going to, you know, this is not going to be a terrible mistake. Just go for it, right? And so I think that, you know, I look back and I wish there was a different trajectory. But there wasn't, you know, and so I made it happen a little later in life.
Right.
And that's just fine, you know, so you just can't put your energy in the past shoulds, you know, so instead we have to put our energy in what will I do, you know, what will we do together and accomplish, what's ahead.
Yep. Excellent. And what about gratitude? Does that play a role in your life?
I am really grateful for, you know, the loving family that I have around me, the inspiration that they give me, my grandchildren now. So grateful for that unconditional adoration, you know, and my husband, who is a great supporter, you know. So I think that when things are tough, you know, you are especially grateful for those people who have your back or have your heart, you know, and you can turn to. And in those moments where you question yourself or you think this isn't worth it, or why did I go down this road? And and they say, just keep going, you know, this is good. And of course, children make you realize why you do the work you do, you know, because we do look forward and we do want to change our world in any way that we can do that, to make it a better place for, in my case, I'm focusing on women, you know, to thrive in. So.
Very nice. Very nice. You know, I was just reflecting back on something that you said earlier about not, you were not an expert in the political process, nor did you want to be personally involved in the political process. So I'm just curious, how did you, I can only imagine that, especially with the 2.5 years you worked on getting that bill through, there's got to be a lot of frustrations and seemingly dead ends as you're moving forward. How do you find yourself moving through that kind of a situation?
Well, I'm surprised where we are, where things are moving forward, So it's sort of shocking because you always kind of, with this work, I kind of expect it to always be thwarted.
Wow.
That wouldn't move forward. You're hopeful, and then you realize there are just so many obstacles, and the process is complicated. So, but, we worked a long time to get to the point where we had an equal pay bill, which is just a piece of legislation. It's not the whole thing that needs to get done. And we really thought that we were going to get it passed on late date in June. And all of a sudden, overnight, everything changed. And what happened was that it wasn't going to move forward. One house passed these bills in one format, and the other house passed it in a different format. If they don't match, there's no law to sign. So it was devastating, to see everyone saying, yes, let's do this.
Right.
Whether they really wanted to or because it was, in their interest to do it or not.
Right.
And then it didn't happen. And it was a devastating experience.
Right.
It was so sad for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And you go through that, you go through that disappointment, and then you have to get up and saying we're so close, we just have to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And we had an extraordinary coalition of 850 people and organizations across the state, run by a steering committee. And there were seasoned folks in that steering committee. And so they helped us say, this is what happens, got to keep going, go back in. And also looking at history and seeing how long it took.
Yeah.
For women to get the vote, and we're whining, Right. So
yeah. So perspective.
So our perspective changes then when you realize what other people have gone through, and you realize it's just gotta pick yourself up. The challenge is to make all these other people who have worked with you, to get excited again.
Exactly.
And get that message across when you're not sitting in a room. And that's a challenge that you have to take on, to acknowledge you're here. And then we're just going to keep fighting and celebrate the smaller successes.
Yeah.
Find things to celebrate.
Yeah.
And you build yourself back up, and you go back in, and didn't happen again. But I think I learned that you actually never know what's coming down the pike. So with politics, suddenly something changed that was really impacted the kind of impasse that we were in the political process. And all of a sudden, everything changed.
Wow.
So there was new leadership in the New York State Legislature, and it allowed everybody to realign. Yeah. So all of a sudden, this great idea, that they couldn't get together on, that was, that it worked. And then it just sailed through, sort of, So, but of course, it was so much time. Yeah. One of the issues that really stopped our progress was around reproductive choice. The debate. And that's the one bill that we didn't pass out of the 10. And I think just as I learned that lots of people care about equal pay, we really saw that we all cared in our own way about reproductive health, and that was all connected. All these issues are just connected, right? To having the ability to make decisions in your life. And we're going back, all of us are going back to make sure that we get that 10th bill passed, and that we make sure that New York leads the way, on this essential right that women have to have in order to control their economic lives and their physical health.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Well, I wish you a lot of luck with that one. Outside of that, is there anything else you've got on your agenda? I'm sure you've got a couple things on the plate, right?
Right. So as I said, we passed an equal pay bill, and just so that if anyone's listening, whoever's listening, it means that workers are allowed to talk about their salaries without fear of retaliation. So it's a step towards wage transparency, of people just knowing what they're being paid and why, and there being a reason for all of this, right? And so that's just a piece. So we're going back for all these other things that need to happen. Well, and some of it's legislative. We want to make sure that every contractor who gets a contract in the state or city of New York is following the equal pay laws. So we infiltrate, this idea that you have to look at what you're doing, and you have to make sure that you are not discriminating against women. And I think we have to all realize we all have a bias. We are all discriminatory in some level. And if you think you're not, then you are.
Right, exactly.
There's like studies about this. So we need to keep, raising the awareness of people. And we have a number of things we want to do. We want to work with business to make sure that they're more open to these policies and that they see it's good for business, and work with individuals, working with women so that they pick fields where they can be paid a living wage. And they can have the dignity of supporting their families, as well as women who do women's work, revaluing women's work and saying that caretaking has value, and it's a higher value than we are paying women right now, typically women right now. So there's a lot of work ahead. We invite everybody into it, learning about whether you're younger and you want to learn about what fields you should go into, or you're older and you're wondering, am I being paid fairly? Everybody's got a place in this work, and we're all doing it and learning it together. It takes a lot of people to change our culture, and we all have to look into ourselves and also to speak up and say, I just don't think we're quite there yet, and we still have to work together on that. So we've got a lot of work, a lot of exciting work ahead, and I always invite people to join us and to come on to our website or email me and see where's your place in this work. So it's all inclusive network, and I really appreciate your letting me talk about it today so we could share it.
Absolutely. We're going to have a slide at the end for those of you who are watching on tape, but tell us right now, what's the website? How would they find out more information?
www.PowHER, PowHERNY.org. And just come on, sign up for our e-class, find out what's going on the week and what you can do about it. So, we have a great group, a team that's doing some exciting work, some younger women, older women, and this is I just want to show everyone our dollar bill. This is our dollar bill. Can you see that?
Yep.
So, and that's our power dollar, and we want it to be 100%, not a piece of it. So everyone's part of that, and working on all these other issues as well. So
wonderful. Well, Bev, I just wish you the best in all the work that you do, and I want to thank you again for being my guest today.
Oh, thank you so much, Janet. Thank you for your interest and your support of this work, and helping us get the word out. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep. And for those of you out there, thank you for joining us, and come back next week for another amazing Superb Woman on Superb Woman Sundays at 7. Until then, have a superb week. Take care.